What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the madness. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 guitar effects for beginners. If you are a beginner and you have no idea whether you should buy a certain effect or not, that's what we're covering in this video. It's whether or not this effect are going to be useful for you, even though your fingers hurt when you play for more than 30 minutes, right? I will be using the axe effects to demonstrate what sorts of pedals and effects that you should buy, but it doesn't really matter as much the brand of the pedal and the name of the pedal as much as it is the actual effect that you're getting from it. Because generally, most effects pedals that are decent, they can do a wide range of things, and it's not like you're getting one sound out of it. So getting a distortion pedal or a chorus pedal, the brand itself doesn't matter as much as the effect itself. And then as a beginner, you can grow and you can go and test things out and find more about what you like. And that's what YouTube's here for, right? So you can kind of dive into what exactly you're looking for, especially from brands, and you can get samples from people that are really great at playing at the same time. All right, welcome to my experimental area, everybody. So what you see on the screen here is my playground for effects, pedals, and amplifiers. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm going to be putting basically an effects pedal down in the line where you would normally be placing a pedal after or before your amplifier. I can do that in modeling software right here on my computer, so you can get an idea of what things sound like without actually having to go and buy them yourself, or me having to go and physically move around and take wires out and change things up. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So right up here, I have an amp and a cab. So you can imagine having an amplifier where it has a speaker built into it. All of this is one unit. But pretending you have just the amp head and then it goes into a cabinet, that's what this is kind of modeling right here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through my top 10 effects that I recommend wholeheartedly to a beginning guitar player. So my first recommendation, 100%, is Reverb. Reverb is essentially modeling a space of where you might play, and if you had a completely clean guitar and you played it in a specific area, it will sound different. Like imagine when you're talking in a stairwell, right? You get that reverb, you hear that slight echo, that richness and fullness when you listen to it in person. That's what reverb is doing for your guitar. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So before I even play a note, let's go ahead and hear what it sounds like clean. Grab a pick. So as you can hear, it's pretty dry, right? You turn on reverb right now, it has a medium room reverb. So this is very generic, but you could go and find a plate reverb, just a small plate, and turn that on. If I turn the mix up, that's like turning, your mix up on the pedal. Like there's gonna be like a mix button or an effect pedal knob. And obviously sounds very rich and full, right? And without any other pedal, it sounds quite nice. And then depending on the reverb you get, you might get anything in here, right? There's all of these are in other pedals. They're essentially just models of different pedals that I'm using this software for. So this is what a North Church might sound like. And that's kind of what I'd say is probably my favorite effect, is a reverb. So let's go ahead and check out some other ones, right? So my number 2 recommended would definitely be a chorus, because I personally like clean playing quite a bit. So chorus and reverb are really kind of two effects that just make your guitar sound amazing without having any other pedals in line. So let's go ahead and listen to this one. This is a very generic, chorus effect. So you can hear it's going to sound modulating. Let's go ahead and bring the mix up a bit so you can hear an idea of what it actually sounds like. LFO, actually I'm not going to tinker with that any. So that's just a normal analog stereo. Let's go ahead and check out like a Dimension 3. I don't know what this is. Or I'll pretend I don't. Once again, dry with chorus. Sounds pretty awesome, right? So let's go ahead and get to the next effect, distortion. Now, if you want to play some metal, you want to play some rock, whatever, you're going to want to play with some distortion, right? So let's go ahead and give you a drive. And there's lots of different distortion types. You know, if you want to get a pedal, there's tons of pedals that replicate a pedal called the Klon Centaur. This is the model of that very specific pedal. And this is what it kind of sounds like if you were to just turn it right on right after an amp and a cab. Let's go drop the level down a little bit. Turn the gain up so you know you're getting all that crunchy that you really like. But you can hear it sounds very distorted. That is the point of distortion, is to give you that long sustain and also to distort the sound of your clean guitar sound, tone. There's plenty of other types of distortion. You can get a rat, which is kind of like it's a kind of fuzzy pedal. But either way, that's what distortion is. It is distorting your guitar sound. And anything that increases gain or drive or anything like that, they're all essentially doing the same thing at a different kind of magnitude. When you hear distortion, it is, or a fuzz, they're very high distortion pedals. When you hear drive, there is a lot of gray room in there. Like there is ones that are very mild, such as like a, you know, basically just like a boost. A boost is essentially the same thing as distortion, but it isn't giving you gain up to a certain point, but maybe not distortion. So like a Bosom boost. Turn the boost down to like normal here. You can hear it still sounds pretty clean, but there's a boost to it, right? If I turn this all the way up, it might get closer to a drive or like a lower level distortion. And then hear it clean. So you hear, it kind of gives it exactly what it says, a boost. Sounds nice. And that's why I recommend a drive or distortion pedal at number 3. Drive and distortion are essentially the same, but they're considered different effects. So distortion and drive, I just demonstrated both for you. So let's go ahead and get to like my next one, probably a delay. A delay would be my next go-to on the list here. So you got a delay. Let's go ahead and just keep it digital mono. And a delay is exactly what you think it is. It delays your effect or delays your sound and replays it over and over again until, you know, for however long the parameters you set on your pedal allow it to. Go ahead and give it some more mix, increase the level a little bit so you can hear it better. You know, and it's up to personal preference what exactly type of effect you want. Of course, this can make your guitar sound just as crazy as a chorus and a reverb, you know, just straight out the box. All of these effects can, which is why I recommend them. But you can have delays do all sorts of crazy different things. You can have them short delays. Like you hear how it's, here, I'll play a chord and then I'll change this actively, right? Actually, you know what? That's a great idea. I'll set my pedal so that it's, there you go. Now, when I move my effects or my expression pedal, it's gonna change the length of the delay. So 1,135 milliseconds is equivalent to about 1.1 seconds. So you're going to hear the delay a little bit over a second later. Sounds cool. All right, so that's delay, and that's a general gist of what you're going to be looking for when you go to a store to look for a delay pedal. These are not specific brands because it doesn't need to be. Effects pedals are effects pedals. Every brand or every company has their own flavor. You know, you go to the store, you get an ice cream tub, and you know which one you like because you've had the flavor before. So you just try different, brands' flavors because sometimes they all taste a little bit different, right? That's the point. That's the point. So let's go ahead and check out my next one, which is going to be a flanger. Everybody likes a good flanger, and a flanger is essentially when I'd recommend looking up a video on old school analog flangers. They're super interesting. But here's what one would sound like as far as just a generic flanger pedal goes on guitar. Let's go go ahead and increase the mix, increase the level a little bit so you can hear better. And then let's go ahead and increase the rate a little bit. Let's go ahead and change it. Let's go to fast flanger. Hear that? That's the flanging. And that's what a flanger does. Go ahead. And so that's what a flanger does. Sounds dramatically different, so it gives you a lot of creative opportunity when you're going and looking for a pedal. Let's go ahead and get on to the next type of pedal, which I really think beginners would benefit from. It just really gets your creative juices going, right? So that's a phaser. Phaser and flangers are very, very close. They're very tightly knit related. Some would say that they're almost identical, right? But they're not. They sound similar, but they're different. So here's a phaser. Let's go ahead and just do fast vibe. You see how the flanging had like a certain kind of, had that characteristic sound? That's what phasers have. They have a characteristic sound of their own. Let's go ahead and check out the digital stereo. Let's go ahead and try out a Stripe 90. Sounds pretty nice, right? But the magic happens when you start mixing these effects, right? I'm not telling you have to go out and buy a whole bunch, but like when you start mixing drives and you start mixing different effects together, that's where the magic happens. But if you had to pick one, that's what I'm trying to give you an idea of, right? So go to like a plus, actually not even a plus. Let's get something a little bit more crazy. Nope, griddle cake isn't going to be crazy enough for me. Oh, you know what? I didn't even turn it down. Ooh, we did turn that down a little bit, huh? So as you can see, it gets wild quick when you start putting in more than one effect. But you can see when you distort something and then you drastically increase the gain and then add an effect to it, it's going to have a wild effect compared to just a clean. But that's what a phaser is. A phaser has that whooshing kind of like vibration sound. And the next one I'd say, if you can get your hands on one, is a rotary. Rotaries are super, super cool pedals, and this is what they sound like here. I'll go ahead and attach one to a pedal so I can give you an idea of what it sounds like. And generally, like rotary pedals, they're not going to be like a ton of modes on them. There might be. I haven't looked up to see what the new ones are out, but this is what a general rotary pedal sounds like. Once again, I'll show you clean. Now here's with the rotary. I think that sounds super cool. Pardon me. Sounds super cool, and I just think that people would definitely benefit from checking these ones out, as opposed to the ones I've mentioned earlier on. So the next one I'm going to say that would be really cool for a beginner to have is likely a synth pedal. And if synth pedals are generally going to be a little bit more expensive because they're doing a little bit more. They're synthesizing a sound as well as modifying your current sound. So a synth pedal will turn your tone into something else. So you heard it before. Let's go dry again. Let's go ahead and give it some synth. And right now it's just a triangle wave synth. And so that's kind of what it's doing. It's taking a triangle wave and modifying my signal with it. It sounds kind of fuzzy, right? Like like one of those big muff pedals almost. Those are more square wavy. So if we got a square right here. Oh, has some technical difficulties there. But that is kind of what a synth one is going to sound like. You can have multiple types of waves. There's tons of options with synths. If you know anything about synthesizers, you can generate any sound you could ever dream of with a synthesizer. But, I'm not going to go dig into that. Just know what you're getting into when you get a synthesizer pedal. And then the last one that I would recommend is definitely an EQ pedal. So an EQ is essentially you're breaking your signal up. Imagine breaking your signal up into a bunch of different pockets. Here, actually, I'll show you. So inside here, I can show you what it would look like with an RTA. All right, so you see that all those right here, all these bars looks like a bar graph. On the bottom side, you got the frequency. On the top, on the left side, so, you know, like a 2D graph, you've got the power. So what it's got here is 64 bands. I'll just put into 32, so it's closer to what you'd see on an EQ. So you got all these different squares, and they represent different frequency components of a signal, or of your guitar signal, right? So in real time, it's showing you what's going on. Now, if I were to play just a G chord, you see all this stuff right here, right? It's hovering right here. And it looks to me like around 100 to maybe 400 has a lot of content, right? Maybe you'd agree with me. Right around here, you see it's the highest. So now if I go to GEQ, which is my graphics equalizer, you can see that in between 250 and 500, I've got these two bars. All of these right here represent different frequency bands. And with this master Q knob, you can basically determine how thin and how wide each band controls. So you see 31 and 63. If I put my Q all the way up, basically that means the control of these knobs is very fine. So it's not affecting anything outside of that frequency. So if I were to go and say, put it all the way down though, it's very wide. So then whatever I do here is affecting here as well. So let's go ahead and check this out. Leave it at 1 and then play the G chord. We see that 250 to 500 or 150 to 500 roughly is still high. What happens if we knock this 250 and this 500 down quite a bit? Now when I play it, it seems a little bit lower, right? Or if I knock it down even further at 125, right? Let's see what happens. See how much lower it is, and it's according right here, like this power level went down 10 dB. Bring this back up. It's up about 10 dB now. So that's what an EQ is. You have a lot of control over the frequency component, which is what your signal is made of. There's a lot of things you can do with these things. So if you jack this up and drop everything else, you'll sound like a telephonic kind of tone. And now go 0 all. Now if I want the bass component to be quite a bit higher, I just, you know, increase this a little bit. Notice how the bass went up quite a bit. Now I was like, oh man, I kind of want a little bit more highs, right? Maybe I want to drop the mids a little bit. That's what you get to do. An EQ pedal, while I feel it is a little bit more of a pedal to kind of get used to and learn about, it gives you a lot of control over the signal that you have. So that's what's going on here. All right, and so that concludes all of the demonstrations of the 10 pedals that I would recommend a beginner to go ahead and get into, or at least the effects that you will be looking for when you go into a guitar store or anything like that, or searching Amazon or browsing the web on YouTube to see exactly what pedals there are out there. All right, I hope you got something out of this. If you did, slap the like or subscribe, whichever floats your boat, only if you got something out of this. I don't need people, you know, feeling like they're pressured into getting into something that they don't really care about, which you probably wouldn't anyways. Who gives a damn? Either way, hope you got something out of this. Really hope you enjoyed it. I will catch you all on the flippy floppy, y'all. Till the next time. Ciao for now, y'all.